this is sort of like how I imagine that this goes down. Where's my mouse cursor? There we go. So this is the candidate. This is Freemasonry. This is the candidate. Candidate's blindfolded. There's a noose around the neck. There's the bearing of the right breast. And then there's the rolled up trouser leg. So I think they make them do that, and then they make them like look in a mirror, and they make them say, this is to show that you are not a woman. But then I think it's up to them to actually apply it elsewhere, like to actually practice it, to take what they learned from making that statement, seeing this in the mirror, if they can see that on all the celebrities. Like that would just be like a regular person, I guess, being initiated into this world. And that's kind of like what I think is how they do it. I think it's also, that's sort of like a filtration, because you got to actually make the connection yourself. They don't tell you that. You got to make that connection yourself. So that access of filtration of candidates. I don't even think most of the Freemasons know this. I think they've all done this, but they've never practiced it, I guess. They've never used what they learned, used what was told to them elsewhere. They probably just thought, have no idea why they're doing it, or they gave them some cheesy, lame explanation of why they're doing it, like the stuff, the generic stuff you read about. That's not what it is. It all parallels this stuff. So the noose around the neck, that's the choker. That's where it parallels these androgynous prostitutes, is the choker, which was used with these prostitutes to help conceal the Adam's apple. So that's the noose around the neck, that's the choker. That goes with the name, that's the pun there. It's like they cross like reference through puns. They transition through their like mediums through puns. And there's the pun, the choker. Like that's how it went from Freemasonry to the Venus cult prostitutes. The puns, the choker. I mean, I know this one doesn't have a choker on, but that's how it's sort of like parallels with the choker. And then the bearing of the one breast, the bearing, like this to me, that would be an example of the bearing of the breast, even though it's, and I'm just saying it, I think it could be either breast. I think the reason why they say right breast is because, again, there's like a pun there with the word right, being right as in the direction, and then right as in R-I-T-E, right. So there's like a pun there. I think that's why they say the right breast, but I think it can be either breast. And I think this is like another subtle way to express it. Just like one single strap shoulder or whatever, a bare shoulder. And this is dress is like made differently, how it slants like that. I think that would be like a example of the bearing of the right breast. I mean, this isn't the Playboy, this is Vogue, so it's not actually going to show you its breast. I think that's like a subtle way that they can do it and get away with it. And of course, what does that mean? I learned what that means in Freemasonry, in the documentary on Netflix. Again, they make them ritualistically dress in this way, and then they make them say this, or they make the statement, this is to show that this is not a woman. So then when you practice what they were showing you there and apply it here, so then that's making a statement that this is not a woman. I mean, I'm just applying what I learned. And also, this is a famous statue, Venus and Aphrodite, which are the same. One's Greek, one's Roman. So this is like a famous stance. It's called Venus Pudica. So there's one hand covering the pubic area and then one hand covering the breast. So this art, I guess, is the group here, art, and then masonry and fashion. So this is like where it all blends together. In art, like that's stance there, that covering of the one breast. Again, it's like a famous stance, but if you apply Freemasonry to that, because it's also bearing one breast, like you can't just cover one breast without leaving the other breast bare. So this group, art uses the word cover, masonry uses the word bear, but it's the same. You can't bear one without covering one. Like I could put this here, I mean, it's the same. Right, but that's Freemasonry where they're bearing a breast, but this is Venus Pudica where it's covering a breast, but it's the same. You can't bear one without covering one. You can't do one without the other. So again, if I apply Freemasonry to this art, the Venus Aphrodite statues doing Venus Pudica, that's making the statement that neither of these are women. So that's actually why they're also covering their pubic area. They're androgynes. If they're not women, they're men. So then, look at the language being used on this magazine cover. Angel Reese. It's always been both basketball and fashion. But it's always been both. Male, female. 2-in-1. They're real big on that implementation of the 2-in-1. It's always been both. The man who would be McQueen, Sean McGurr. Again, this is what's being used on this magazine cover with this professional women's basketball player, Angel Reese. The man who would become, or the man who would be McQueen. So that's transitioning. That's a transitioning statement. The man who would be queen, like, and it's male, female. It's androgyny statement. Again, that's all in the magazine cover of Vogue. And it's the story of a perfect marriage. The perfect marriage being that of male and female. Man, queen. And that's just the transgender perspective. There's also a transhuman perspective, but I'll save that for another video.